Hello, and welcome to the 4th episode of the BHA Today Podcast. We are back, ladies and gentlemen, and we have an awful lot to discuss today. As a debate with me, I have Matt once again, as he was highly requested to join me.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, how you doing, mate? You alright?
Yeah, I'm alright, thank you. It's been a while.
Has indeed. I just want to start off with something I want to get off my chest. It might have been a while ago, but comments are still continuing regarding Anthony Knockaert. You know he got sent off against Everton, didn't he, Matt?
Yeah.
It was in the second half. We were 2-0 down, so he was understandably frustrated. Leighton Baines went to whip across into our area, hit Knockaert in the face. That angered him slightly, as it would for anyone. I don't think it was actually intentional from Baines, but a few minutes later there was something intentional. Knockaert decides to 2-foot Baines from in front of him, and it didn't actually look as if he was trying to get the ball. It looked like he was just trying to clatter Leighton Baines. And he got sent off, and he's been banned for 3 games. And once again, understandably, Brighton fans have been a little bit frustrated with Knockaert about this incident. It is understandable, yeah. But some of the comments that have come out of Brighton fans' mouths are really atrocious. I mean, some people have been saying you should never put a Brighton shirt on again. That is just ludicrous. Think about how much he's done for this club. I mean, in just over 2 years, he's got 91 games for us. He's scored 23 goals, got 18 assists. In the games he's been playing in, he's got 36% of the goals. So he's involved in, 36% of the goals. He's either scored them or assisted them in his time in the club. So that's pretty sensational. And let's not forget, if any fans ask him for an autograph, a picture, to chat with him, he'll do any of that. I've been outside the grounds. I haven't actually spoken to him myself, but I've seen him with fans, taking photos. Some of my followers have sent photos in so that he had a good chat with them. He's a really nice guy. You see him on Instagram posing with his kid and smiling with his kid. He doesn't seem like the sort of guy who would naturally want to hurt anyone. So in the game, obviously he did hurt Baines slightly with his challenge. It was reckless. But I think it was more for the passion of the game than his sort of natural behaviour, if you know what I mean. He was frustrated. We were losing. So understandably, he would be frustrated. He would be angry. We've seen him in the past, and fans have said to me that he drops a little when he gets taken off the pitch. So against Arsenal, when he came off, we were winning, but he did get a bit frustrated, got in a bit of a strop. But once again, that is understandable. He wants to play football. It's his passion for the game and for the club. So the sort of comments saying he should never put a shirt on again are completely ridiculous, and it's really frustrated me that fans of this club would feel that way.
Yeah.
I mean, Knockaert's done so much for us, and we can't forget as well, he went through some really difficult times with us. He went through times where he lost his brother in the early sort of months of 2016. And then later in the year, he lost his dad. And he dedicated goals to his family members during the time in the club. Famously, he scored a goal at home, and then he went over towards the box where the managers were. He got a photo of his dad and held him up to the TV cameras. Really emotional moment. A few other goals which he dedicated to his father as well. He's dedicated moments to his kid as well now. He dedicated our promotion to his brother and dad. So these moments, he's been with the club, he's loved the club, and he's cherished it with the club. And for people once again to say he should never put a Brighton shirt on again, he should be ashamed of themselves. Yeah, he should be ashamed of what he did, but I don't think it was in his nature. I think it was just a little moment, and he will learn from this. His 3-match suspension, he'll become a better player, he'll mature, and I think we'll see a good side of it. So these fans saying you should never put a shirt on again, please just have a little bit of a think about who Knockaert really is and what you're putting out there on the internet. Like, loads of comments have flooded in on my page regarding Knockaert and negativity around him. Please, as I've said, just think about who Knockaert is. He's probably seeing some of these messages and taking it to heart. So, yes, I might be a little bit overprotective of Knockaert. He's one of my favourite players. But I am thinking of the person behind the phone screen. I'm thinking about the guy behind the player on the TV. I'm thinking about the true Knockaert, and I don't believe the true Knockaert is the aggressive person we saw against Everton. So I might have come across a little bit harsh, and I apologise if you did feel that way, but I just want to put my opinion across, and I said, get something off my chest. It was really bugging me.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I feel like he just needs a little bit more respect for what he's done for the club over the years and the things he's achieved, because you don't get a lot of players these days that are as loyal and passionate as Anthony Knockaert. So I agree with what you're saying to an extent.
Another issue, which has kicked up a little bit of fuss in the last couple of weeks, is Gareth Southgate's England squad selection for the upcoming friendlies against the Netherlands and Italy. For you as an Arsenal fan, it may not seem too controversial, but us as Brighton fans, We're a little bit disappointed that there's no Glenn Murray or Lewis Dunk included in the selection. I mean, it's also a bit of a kick in the teeth when you see Danny Welbeck and Alfie Mawson's names on the squad sheet. Lewis Dunk and Glenn Murray, in my opinion, certainly deserve to place in the squad. So let's just compare Welbeck and Murray. Welbeck, an Arsenal player, of course, so you might have a little bit of bias towards him. I've got a bias towards Murray. Anyway, the stats, you can't argue with them. In the Premier League this season, Welbeck has made 32 appearances, Murray's made 4 less with 28. They've both had 20 starts in the Premier League. Welbeck's got 1 assist, Murray hasn't. But with the big chances missed, Welbeck has missed 4, Murray's missed 3, very close. With goals, though, Danny Welbeck's only scored 3, and Glenn Murray has scored a massive 11. So it's quite a difference there. And recent form, Murray's been literally blowing Welbeck away. Of course, Welbeck scored 2 against AC Milan, but Glenn Murray in the Premier League recently has been outstanding, scoring loads of goals his last few games. And also, Glenn Murray offers a bit more at the back if we needed him. Headed clearances in the Premier League this season. Danny Welbeck's only done 4. Glenn Murray's done 4 times that. He's made 16 headed clearances, so he'd be able to threat in the air in the box. He'd be able to defend for us if we needed him. Now comparing Mawson and Dunk, both made 30 appearances, both made 30 starts for their clubs. Very important centre-halves. Mawson's made 1 more clean sheet with 9, Dunk with 8, so very close. Mawson's also made 7 more clearances with 180, Dunk has 173. But here is a place where it's a little bit concerning, picking Mawson. Mawson's tackled only 22 times, that's a real shock, and Dunk has tackled 64 times, so that's a massive difference there. And aerials won. Mawson has won 86 this season, and Dunk has won 101. So in terms of tackling and aerial ability in the box, Lewis Dunk smashes Mawson out of the water. Everything else is quite close, but the tackles really does concern me with Mawson. I think Dunk should be in the squad, mate.
I agree with what you're saying about Lewis Dunk, but I disagree with Glenn Murray. I just don't think he's that experienced enough. The lack of experience on the big stage, for example, not playing for England before, and I don't really know, has he played in the Europa League, Champions League before for any different sort of club?
No, I don't believe so. I believe he's always been around sort of band of high-end Championship, low-end Premier League, so I doubt he's ever really played on the big stage, as you say.
Yeah, so I would have to disagree with you with that, but I still don't agree that Danny Welbeck should be in the squad.
Well, yeah, I completely get what you're saying. Lewis Dunk, as you say, should probably be in the England squad ahead of Alfie Mawson. Obviously with his greater tackles than Mawson, more aerial duels won. With Glenn Murray, I know he's old, I know he hasn't had much experience, but I do think he should be given a chance by Southgate. I mean, these are international friendlies. It should be the chance for players like Murray to sort of prove himself on the big stage. He never has played in that stage before, but there's nothing saying he shouldn't be able to do that. Everyone's got first. He may be 34 having his first, but I don't think it's too late. He showed his form in the league. It's far greater than Welbeck's. He should be given a chance. These sort of friendlies against Netherlands and Italy, they're against big players, so if Murray was given a chance, we'd actually be able to see if he was good enough. But he has been given a chance. That has frustrated me and other Albion supporters, but if I didn't have to pick Murray, and I didn't have to pick Welbeck, I'd probably go for someone like Tammy Abraham. I mean, he's only scored 4 goals in this season, but he's a pacey player. He's quite young with lots of potential. He's quite tall as well. He dominates in the area. He's also created 7 big chances for Swansea this season, Premier League. He's one of those players who you can put up front by himself, and he pretty much bossed the whole defence for you. He can make some decent runs. He could shoulder off people. He can create some big chances, and he's a good finisher as well. I mean, out of his shots on goal, 45% of those are on target. So I think he'd be quite a good player to call up. What do you reckon, Matt?
Yeah, I would have to agree with you with that. It's always good to get the youngsters in early in those big stages. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the international friendlies this week.
So we've talked about 2 big negatives regarding Brighton. Let's talk about 1 positive, and that is the fact that it's seeming more likely they're going to stay up at the end of the season. We're currently in 12th position with 34 points. We've got 8 games won in the Premier League this season. That's more than Palace, West Ham, Southampton, Stoke and West Brom are all below us. We've got a minus 12 goal difference, which might not seem too good, but is superior to every single team below us apart from Newcastle. And in our last 5 games in the Premier League, 3. So we're doing quite well at the moment, Matt. In 12th position at the moment, 6 points clear of that relegation zone. What do you reckon? Are we going to stay up at the end of the season?
Like we said in the last pods, that we do think Brighton will stay up. I think they're a very solid side. I wouldn't want to see Brighton go down. They deserve to stay up. They've shown why, beating top clubs like Arsenal. And I think they've got a lot to bring to the Premier League. And I would like to see them in the Europa League next season. That would be fantastic.
I mean, it does seem a little bit crazy talking about Europa League football, but to be fair, a couple of weeks ago, as I mentioned on Instagram, we were actually closer to qualifying in the Europa League than getting relegated. And also, if Man City or Liverpool, let's say, won the Champions League, that opens up 8th position as a potential Europa League spot. So it could happen. We're a little bit off the Europa League spots at the moment. Quite a few points off Everton and Leicester. Obviously, we're playing Leicester next up, so if we get some points against them, it could become a possibility. Everton are playing Man City, so maybe they'll lose to them. It could open up a little bit more of a spot for us. But I do think that we're getting a little bit carried away talking about Europa League football. I mean, for me, the main intention should just be stay up. I don't care where we finish, if I'm honest. As long as we stay in the Premier League, the money difference, the rewards at the end of the season aren't too much of a difference between, let's say, 17th and 10th. So I say just focus on the games you've got in hand, game by game. Let's not talk about Europa League football. We'll just get carried away. But that's where I go from. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I do think that they do have a chance of Europa League, but you don't want to put that pressure on the team and the manager, because it could get to them and it could get out of hand. So just concentrate on staying up, and I think that should be their goal. And if they do get Europa League, that's a big bonus.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, we don't want the added pressure, especially some of the games ahead. So we've got the likes of City, United, Spurs, Liverpool, all to come in the league. So the next 3 games are going to be really important. We don't want pressure against the big sides. We don't want pressure against the next 3, which are Leicester, Huddersfield and Palace. Obviously, these next 3 games are lesser sized than the likes of City and United. So these games, in my opinion, are going to be quite important. On 34 points at the moment, we are 6 points clear of the relegation zone, as I've said. Matt, how important are these next 3 games, and how many more points do you think we'll need to stay up?
The last 3 games are very, very big for Brighton. I don't think they'll need that many more points. I reckon the max points they can try and get is 6, but a lot of the teams below Brighton are struggling at the moment. But I think they got to go all out now, Brighton, and try and get as many as they can.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't got much to lose, to be honest. Obviously, relegation would be a massive loss for us, but we are at a point where we can sort of relax a little bit more. As you said, teams below us are really struggling. We need to remember there are still 5 or 6 other teams which are battling below us. So we've got a little bit of leeway. You say 6 points, I'd say maybe 4 or 5. It's quite similar. Say one win against the next 3 and get a draw or something.
Yeah,
that could be enough, and then maybe try and get 1 point against one of the big sides at the end of the season.
I think Brighton's mindset should be that they're in the relegation zone right now, and every game is, their last game in the Premier League. To have that sort of mindset to play the absolute heart out.
Yeah, I think Shane Duffy and Matty Ryan both said that they're treating every single game at the moment as a cup final. I believe Houghton said that in a press conference as well, and I think that's exactly how we should act towards it at the moment. I mean, some players, I can argue, they don't actually look like that on the field. Some people do give up, but that's just their mentalities, unfortunately. But if we can get together as a team, as we have in the past, and we do sort of focus on every single game as if it was a cup final, treat it as a massive occasion, then I believe we'll get those extra points we do need, and we will stay up. So I'm confident myself, and you seem to be confident that we'll stay up. So yeah, that's a big major positive that we can talk about. Obviously, there's quite a lot going on at the moment in regards to West Ham. They lost 4 of their last 5 games, which is awful, and there's been a lot of fans going against the chairman and the board there. I mean, the last game against Burnley, they lost 3-0, which is an awful result, especially where they are only 2 points away from the relegation zone. But what I don't agree with, what happened, was lots of fans rioting, some fans running on the pitch. The game, I think, had to get stopped 7 times throughout the game. and fans were also throwing coins and beer cans and everything towards the box that the directors and the board and the chairman were in. So, what do you think about the whole scenario regarding West Ham? Do you think that the owners have no choice but to sell, or do you think they should try and keep hold of the club and get things back to where they should be?
Yeah, I feel like when the fans turn against the chairman's got to think about that there's got to be a change. It's never good when the chairman goes against the players and the players go against the chairman. We've seen it with other clubs in the past, and it's led to very, very, very bad things. It's not a good thing. The chairman should have a massive think about what he wants to do to the club and what he wants to achieve for the future. But I reckon he's got to go. He has got to go.
Yeah, I mean, for me, his main focus at the moment should just be staying in the Premier League, because from a business point of view, staying in the Premier League will make a massive difference in the value of the club. I mean, if they step in the season, if I were the chairman, well, firstly, I wouldn't be in this position in the first place because I consider the fans a little bit more than he does. But from his point of view, I try and do as much as I can to try and get the players back on my side towards the end of the season. It's a little bit selfish, but try and get us to stay up and then maybe sell the club at the end of the season for a big buyer who would want to buy a Premier League club and develop them.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but you see what happened with Charlton and Leyton Orient, where when the chairman goes, against the players, it can lead to really, really bad outcomes to the club.
Yeah, I mean, we did see that on a Saturday when the West Ham fans were really turning against the chairman. They're actually getting really violent. So, did you see on the bench, actually, with the Burnley players, they actually let some West Ham fans onto the bench, little kids, just to try and keep them safe?
I saw that.
So yeah, as you're saying, it is getting a bit serious. So something does need to change, as I said. But if they do get to the end of the season, they do stay up. If he does sell the club, where do they go next? What can the new owner do to try and support the club again?
Yeah, I feel like the chairman's got to spend a bit more in the transfer window. But I morely blame that they left Upton Park and went to the new stadium. I feel like that's lost a lot of the atmosphere and kind of the feeling of playing for West Ham. The stadium was a massive, massive, massive part of West Ham.
Yeah, so obviously you've lost that now. They've got a 99-year lease to the London Stadium. So how can they the new owner, how can they regenerate the atmosphere at West Ham? What do you reckon they can do to provide them with the atmosphere they used to have at Upton Park?
Yeah, I can't really answer that because I don't think you can get what you had back at Upton Park. I can't see that happening.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, the London Stadium is absolutely massive. It's one of the biggest stadiums in the Premier League, and no offence to West Ham, they have got a large fan base, but the current state they're in, and they won't be in a much better state anytime soon. They're not going to fill up the stadium anytime soon, and I don't feel as if that ground will ever really create much of an atmosphere. I mean, I have seen on the telly the stadium bouncing, let's say against Tottenham in the Cup, but to have that consistency like I did at Upton Park, it's going to be very difficult to recreate. And another thing the new chairman would have to do if he were to come in was not to sell West Ham fans a dream. That's something that David Gold did with the new stadium. He said to the West Ham fans that they would become big competitors in Europe and start spending big money and have proper good players in that stadium competing on the field. That never really happened. I mean, they made some good signings with Joe Hart, Hernandez and Arnautovic. They've all been alright, but none of them have been outstanding. They need to sign a few more players who can really compete on the big stage, get West Ham up the table. And the new chairman has to be a bit more realistic. Instead of jumping straight to conclusions with becoming a big club in Europe, maybe saying becoming a top half Premier League team again. Once you've achieved that, then you can start thinking about Europa League, Champions League, but just to take things one step at a time. That's what I think, Matt.
Definitely.
Right, so just before we answer your questions, one more thing I wanted to talk about, and that is Mohamed Salah. I mean, he's in incredible form at the moment. He scored 4 goals and got an assist against Watford last weekend as Liverpool beat them 5-0. And at 28 goals after 30 appearances, For Liverpool, he did miss one appearance this season. He's got 7 left to go. Obviously, the Premier League scoring record is 34 in the season, set by Alan Shearer quite a few years ago now. Matt, do you think that Mohamed Salah can surpass this record?
I don't think he will. I just think it's a lot of pressure on him now. It'll be on his mind, and I think it will get to him.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where you're coming from. It's a massive feat to achieve. It's going to be very difficult for him. Obviously, 7 games left to go, and to actually beat the record, it has to be 7 goals from that. I mean, to equal it, 6, but you don't want to equal it, do you? You just want to beat it. In the Premier League this season, his goals per match ratio is 0.93. It's extremely close, and bearing in mind that includes games against like City, Man United, and all sorts. As obviously against United, Ashley Young somehow kept him at bay. But in his last 7 games of the season include Palace, Everton, Bournemouth, West Brom, Stoke, Brighton, one hard game in there against Chelsea, but apart from that, those games seem like quite easy games for him to pick up some goals. If he can continue what he's done recently, continue his goals per match ratio, I think he could actually do it, Matt. I mean, it does seem a little bit silly in that, considering he's not even a striker, it's just a winger, but he's the main man for Liverpool at the moment, and if Firmino and Mane and the likes can continue assisting him like they are, I think Mohamed Salah will actually beat the goal scoring record. Right, the bit you've all been waiting for. Let's get into the questions sent in by the viewers. So firstly, I quite like to question sent in from @TaylorGreer_, which was, if Brighton were to stay up, what is the goal for next season? What do you reckon, Matt?
I reckon their goal for next season will be Europa League. They've got to go for it, haven't they?
I mean, as I said before, it's quite a big feat to go towards, but I guess I could agree. I reckon, personally, next season if we stay up, maybe aim for like the top half of the table or in and around the middle of the table, and then maybe the season after try and hit Europa League. That's what I'd say. I think we have to go for it in the transfer window in the summer. Obviously get the awards for finishing in the Premier League again, get lots of money for that. Maybe strengthen the midfield, maybe deepen the attack a little bit. So I think that'd be quite good. But yeah, the answer to your question, Taylor, is I think the goal for next season, in my opinion, should just be to try and get mid-table. Obviously, Matt thinks maybe something further as Europa League, but that's just our thoughts. Right, so next question, @HenryHazel100 and @JDog_2004 have actually asked the same question, and that is Glenn Murray or Jurgen Locadia. What do you reckon, Matt?
I would pick Glenn Murray, as he's got the better form with 11 goals. Locadia, I think you've got to give him a bit more time to show his real potential.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with the facts keeping Murray in for now. For this season, I'd say Glenn Murray, have Locadia as like an impact sub. But Henry and J-Dog, I think that Locadia next season should be our starting striker, because I feel like across the summer, obviously Glenn Murray's getting a bit older now, let Locadia settle in a bit more off the bench, and then next season, if we do stay up, that is, maybe as we're challenging for mid-table, as I've said, maybe have Locadia as a starting striker and Murray as the impact sub, so like swap their roles. What do you reckon, Matt, of that?
Yeah, agreed with that one.
Another question from @JeremyD123. What his name that is. If we stay up, realistically, who do you see us signing and who do you think will depart? Wow, that's a
good question. I can see you bringing in Dembele. If you're going to sign Dembele, I don't think you're going to sign anyone else.
Yeah, I think Dembele would be a major coup.
I could see Murray maybe leaving. I reckon he might stay a couple more seasons. There's not a lot of Brighton players I can see leaving. I don't know about you, but I can't really see any Brighton players actually fed up and want to move on.
I mean, there's players that I can see bigger clubs sniffing around for. So these aren't players I think I want to depart, but there are players who I feel as if big clubs might want to get. So Lewis Dunk is one of them. He's probably one of the players of the season so far. There's bound to be big clubs looking at him. Maybe even Arsenal. I mean, your centre-backs at the moment, they're all over the place. You sort out your defence. Lewis Dunk could be a good option for it. It's true, mate, it's true. Someone maybe like, I don't know, like an Everton. I think he'd fit in quite well there. Maybe like a Leicester, a Burnley. Well, Burnley aren't that much bigger club than Brighton, but yeah, maybe like a Leicester, an Arsenal, an Everton, someone like that. And then people like Izquierdo, he's impressed on the big stage. Midfielders like Dale Stephens, I can see him maybe leaving the club to make way for another midfielder. I mean, don't get me wrong, Dale Stephens has been very good this season. I think I put a post up. He's quite underrated. He got like the 5th most tackles so far in the Premier League this season, which is very good. But I think we can get someone who can do the same job. To be honest, I think Dale Stephens is probably better off at a club like Swansea or like Huddersfield, maybe someone down the Championship like a Derby or a Leeds. I don't think he's really good enough to continue in the Premier League with us, especially if we're trying to hit mid-table. So maybe if he departs, that could be another lever for us. With Dembele, I mean, as you've said, that'd be quite a big signing for us, and we may not make much more moves after that. But in order to get Dembele in, I think really we need to maybe get rid of Sam Baldock. He doesn't play at the moment. I think he's actually on loan away.
Yeah, I think you also need to be hitting that Europa League kind of standard for him to think, actually, I want to leave Celtic, because I'm not a big fan of Celtic, but they are hitting at that Champions League, Europa League kind of areas, which Dembele might not want to leave for.
Yeah, I mean, he might want a new challenge in the Premier League, but he probably does have better options, to be fair. Like, even Burnley will be in the Europa League, so Burnley would probably be quite a good option for him. So I guess, even if we got with an extra striker in Tom Mohamed, I mean, it hurts me to say that. I do love Tom Mohamed. He was a great player for us in the Championship. He's always stuck by us, but he's getting on as well. If we get rid of him and Sam Baldock, it could attract Dembele in, because he'd be more likely to start. If we didn't get rid of those guys, if I were Dembele, I'd probably completely get rid of the idea of going to Brighton. But as I said, if they did both go, then it could be a possibility for him. And finally, with this question, have talked quite a lot about this one, Jeremy. With the midfielders, as I said about Dale Stephens leaving, Matt, I'm going to ask you something, mate. Who would you see as a replacement for Dale Stephens?
I reckon Renato Sanchez, young, strong, not having the best of seasons at Swansea. I don't think Bayern Munich probably won't want him back for a while now. I think it would be solid if Brighton could get a stronger player in their midfield, as they're not really physical in the midfield.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, to be fair, mate. Bringing in Renato Sanchez, he doesn't really fit Swansea's system too well. And the fact he hasn't done very well at them means he's more likely to want to join somewhere like Brighton. I think with us, he'd fit perfectly in, because we don't really have one of those midfielders, as you said, who is quite strong. Like, Renato Sanchez's best attributes are physical and tackling and everything like that. So if Sanchez is willing to play in quite a defensive role, he'd be a great signing. Put him straight where Stephens was. Have proper sort of the playmaker role, and then keep Gross in the attacking midfield position. Yeah, mate, that'd be a great signing. So, Jeremy, that is your answer for that question. Right, so to finish off with these questions, we can talk about something which could finish. And Ewan at Ewan Salisbury and at Luke_Kemsley. So, quite similar questions here. Ewan says, should Bruno retire this season? And Luke says, do you think Bruno will retire at the end of the season? Personally, guys, it's a difficult question, because I love Bruno. He's one of my favourite players. He always has been when he's been at the club. He's got such a character to him, and when he's on the field, you see his passion for the club, his love for the club. But personally, obviously you've seen recently of Ezekiel Scalotto getting in the team more. Bruno's been on the bench. Bruno hasn't much involvement, to be honest. So I personally think the best option probably would be to retire, probably at the end of the season, or maybe in the next season. If he did retire in this season, what I could see him possibly doing, what I think he should do, is become part of the coaching ranks at Brighton, because that way he can still be in and around the changing room, still has an influence on us, we can still communicate with him as fans. I think that'd be quite a good option for him. Matt, where do you stand? Do you think that Bruno should retire this season?
It would be a shame to see him go, being a big player at Brighton. I could see what you're saying about him going into the coaching sort of roles at Brighton, maybe coaching the younger sort of teams, but it'll be sad to see him go if he does go. But I think he should retire at Brighton, not a different club. Yeah, if he retired at a different club, I mean, the only place I probably would see him going is maybe Spain, going back to some of the lower divisions there. Yeah, but you have to. But Brighton Brighton fans will have to accept if he wants to carry on playing first team football, and if he has to leave for that, they've got to accept that. They've got to accept that.
Yeah, it'd be pretty heartbreaking though to see him if he went to, say, like a championship team, finish his career. Obviously I can respect his decision, but it'd be horrible to just see him in England for a different club. For me, he's Brighton, he's the king of Brighton. I really do hope he retires with us, or in Spain, as I say. I think that'd be quite a romantic end to his career. If he did join the coaching ranks, as I said, I think that'd be a great option, actually. I mean, the legacy he brings to the club is fantastic. And as you've said, with the younger players, they'll have so much respect for him. We've got loads of youth prospects at the moment that are coming through. To have Bruno as a coach around them, I think that'd be fantastic. So, Luke and Ewan, that is the answer to your question. Right, so we should probably wrap up the podcast there. I've enjoyed answering quite a lot of your questions. What about you, Matt? Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, getting the fans involved.
Yeah, it's been great just to sort of, not directly talk to you guys, but answer some of the questions a bit more to get you a lot more involved. If you want to get involved with the next podcast, DM us, as I've said in the past, on Instagram, or you can send us a tweet on our new Twitter, @BHA_Today. You go follow that for some more Brighton news. And if you did want to come on the podcast, that's an option for you to do as well on the next few episodes. Send us a DM, and if you want to get involved, maybe send a video of you saying some opinion, and we'll have a think about if we want to get you on or not. And if we do have anyone on, we will release it on Twitter to say who will be on, and you can go tell your mates so they can listen to you on the podcast. Great opportunity for you guys. I want you to be more involved with the BHA Today community. And for the next podcast, I really look forward to seeing you then. Matt, I hope you enjoyed this one again. It's been great having you on again, mate.
Thank you. Always appreciate it.
And finally, if you want to have any other guests that you're not yourself, or maybe suggest a mate, or can suggest like a YouTuber or anyone you want to have on any sort of guests, DM it to us on Instagram, and I'll reply to you as soon as possible. Alright, see you next time on the BHA Today Podcast.